Well, he was a very warm person. He loved students, first of all. That's why he got into university work. But he'd been a YMCA guy, you know, counselor and then director of the Y Camp when he was 21 back at Big Cove YMCA camp in Nova Scotia. And he was president of the student council at his university, Dalhousie, and always loved interacting with people. And he had been a dean of law at University of Victoria, which is a very different kind of law school. The only reason we ever left Halifax was to start a law school with a different way of teaching law and the values and so on. So then universities started inviting him, would he look at a presidency? And he always said no. But when Calgary came along with a professional schools plural, that really interested him. So it was a challenge, and he was a kind of multi-dimensional sort of guy. And he thought, yeah, and the dynamic city that Calgary is and was, even in 1988, was very attractive. So he did it. We came Stampede Week. So we had to be outfitted very fast to look like we might belong here. And that was fun. And our final dinner party at our home was a Stampede luncheon for business leaders and academic leaders on our patio. I remember, I don't know, it might have been 50 people, something like that, all in red and white. So it was fun. But we thought that Calgary was a challenge to meet the community and to build more bridges between the university and the community. And we worked at that. I think the university was on the brink of growing and wanting to be more important. And the city was just booming. The oil business was fine, not like 20 years later when, you know, the oil business is a different entity now. And that can-do attitude that we always hear about Calgary is so refreshing. I don't remember ever going to a meeting where people would say, oh, we've done that, that doesn't work. In Calgary, the question is always, let's do it. How can we do it? And we were both quite involved downtown as well, which we needed to be. So it was just fun to come to a new place and a big city. So I think his greatest accomplishment was probably building community, but also leading the university community through a terrible financial cutback. I believe Ralph Klein's government put 21% over 26 months. And when you have salaries eating up more than well past 80% of your budget, it's a pretty tough thing. When we came here, the president's salary was $165,000. That was 1988. With the cutbacks, Murray felt it was very important that he would be seen to be respecting the cutbacks, and he wasn't immune from it. He cut his own salary to $156,000. So when he left this university, he was earning $156,000, 8 years after starting at $165,000. That was a genuine effort to demonstrate that everybody had to be involved. And I remember talking to some of the union people, and they said, you know, we hate these cutbacks, but we trust President Fraser. He will do the best he can for us. So I think it was that sense of trust that people had, the sense that he really cared about them. He earned the nickname the Velvet Hammer. You may or may not have heard of that, but he was tough, but he was so friendly and warm that people respected that aspect of his way of being. And he was tough and demanding, but at the same time so much humility and understanding and humor. One of the VPs said she got a puppy one time, and she said, President Fraser said, oh, bring him in, I'd like to see it. So here sitting on the president's desk is a puppy, a Jack Russell puppy, which are among the most rambunctious of dogs, I think. And she said she couldn't believe that the president would have the dog on his desk. Well, why not? A good way to see it, I suppose. It was so important for the president to be seen downtown and to interact with people. And he was lucky enough to get a wonderful downtown person as chairman of the board, Dick Haskane. And he surprised Dick one time. They became very close friends. They were so similar. At the final dinner, which honored us at the Red and White Club, he announced that he was going to call the little crescent in front of the business school Haskane Crescent. And Dick Haskane was completely taken aback, took off his glasses, wiped his eyes. You know, he was so moved by it. But it was a tribute to what an effective chairman of the board this guy had been. He had time for individuals, faculty too, non-academic people. He would often take time at noon or whenever he had 20 minutes. He'd walk out into the quadrangle and talk to students. Just stop them, say, "Hi, I'm Murray Fraser, I'm president of the university." And they'd sort of say, "Oh, who are you, and where's home, and what are you studying? What are you enjoying about the university? What don't you like?" That kind of thing. And so many students said, "I couldn't believe that the president was talking to me." Well, you must never forget, no matter what the title that somebody occupies or the office, it's another human being. And it's so interesting to meet students when you're the head of a place that exists for students. Well, one of the things he did that was very unusual was handpick a group of senior people in the university, various faculties. I remember one person from medicine, some students, some non-academic people. And it was to chart a course for the future, because he felt the university had to be more nimble and be able to cope with the way that technology was changing learning, the way a university operates as well. And so he set this marvelous transformational committee up. He didn't sit with them, but he mentored them. And I remember Murray saying, my successor will be able to hit a home run with this, because it was transformational, and he hoped that would be picked up, just to make the university more forward-thinking and forward-looking. And I know we went to Hong Kong more than once, and we were guests of Mr. Henry Falk at one of our trips. And Henry Falk gave a great deal of money to build Hotel Alma. That was how it ended up. And he was a charming Chinese gentleman, driving in a bulletproof Mercedes. And nothing happened while we were there, so that was very good. You have to build the bridges back and forth between universities and other communities. So the challenge of it is terrific. And if one has people skills, I think it makes the job more enjoyable and easier. Never easy. I wouldn't say easy. But, you know, battling through those lean years with budget cuts, that was not pleasant. And it set the university back. Murray was a very collaborative person too, and he wanted more collaboration between the U of C and the U of A, and some with Mount Royal too. And he found it very difficult to get any cooperation from Edmonton North, from the U of A. It just happened the personnel weren't interested in collaboration very much. But he loved the job, he truly did. Though he felt that 8 years was long enough. He had a 5-year term, which the board extended. They wanted him to take another 5 years. He said, "No, I think 8 years is long enough." And it turned out that it certainly was. Since he had gone, the university is very, very prominent now, very well thought of. It may be too big to be as personal as it was in 1988 to 1996. When you knew people, I mean, I met somebody last night who was with audiovisual. "Keith, you're still here." I mean, these sorts of things. It was great. First person I met on campus last night was Nahid Nenshi. He was arriving at the same moment that I did. And that was a real treat. And he spoke last night, of course, at the event. And his last words were, this one's for you, Murray. That was lovely. And so did Ken Lima Coelho, the MC for last night's big event. And he said when he thinks of his years at the U of C, he mentioned one experience, but the one that stands out for me is that he said, and I had the pleasure of knowing a great man, Murray Fraser, our president. And I thought, man, you two guys, that's just amazing. But it's so nice. It's very, very nice. Students, skills with marvelous people skills. And he honed those, you know. As a young fellow, I could see when he directed the big, this is not really relevant at UC, but when he was director of the YMCA camp, the guy was 21 years old, 22. And I thought, man, I think now, I never thought of it then, what a responsibility. But he had the most dynamic bunch of leaders that he picked for his staff. And today their accomplishments are quite remarkable too, but even then they were young people with great promise. And so many people have said that Murray recognized in me some abilities that I didn't know I had. And that's such a lovely skill to encourage people, whether they're, you know, on staff or faculty or students in a university. We were very lucky. We were asked if we would accept. We had a phone call at our summer home in Nova Scotia, and it was the Chancellor, Nan McCaig, and she said, I want to talk to both of you at once. One of our boys was with us. We were sitting on the deck on a gorgeous August day, and she said, the university wants to award you both honorary degrees. What? So, I mean, I thought, gee, it's nice that they're giving Murray one, but me too? So we were all very excited. And on the 12th of November, 96, we received these honorary degrees. And of course, we had to give the convocation speech together. That was quite fun. And I just started wearing reading glasses, so I remember having these things perched on the end of my nose. It felt rather silly. But it was fun to do the speech. I can't even tell you what we talked about, but I think one of the things was a quote from Maya Angelou, and it was, people don't remember what you said, they don't remember what you did, but they remember how you feel, how you made them feel. And I think that's not a bad sort of thing to remember. So it was quite a thrill. We were both quite delighted that we had that lovely opportunity. It was pretty unusual. We had a lot of students at the house, and they were great because they would eat all the food that came too. When we had the deans and other adults, they wouldn't eat quite as much, so I always knew to order enough. I had a very peculiar menu on this particular evening. We invited the entire football team, the Dinos, and their coaches, the physios, the massage therapists, all the people that worked with them. So there were over 100 people in the house. Murray wore his U of C Dinos football shirt, which they had given him quite a while ago. And they all took their shoes off. They didn't have to, but all these runners' sneakers were in the foyer of our house. It was wall-to-wall sneakers. And the menu, it's embarrassing to tell you what the menu was. I ordered 3 dozen pizzas, various kinds, and a bunch of apple pies and ice cream. And I thought you would never feed that to another group of people. But for the football team, and they were so excited to be there, and they were so happy that they'd won the Vanier Cup. So that's a memory I have. It was hilarious.